So one of the best ways to come to really decent conclusions about how Xbox, PlayStation, and a lot of the folk in the gaming market, could be Nvidia, could be AMD, could be Intel, is doing and how they're actually providing good value proposition is by asking very good questions. You ask those questions. Sometimes the questions may be bad, but at least you ask them so that we can actually get to where we're asking much direct, much better, questions that are pro-consumer at the end of the day. You guys were here when I actually showed you a comment from an audience member when they said that PlayStation was superior in every measure. And one of the measures that they said was that PlayStation has the best third-party games. And then followed by that, they said they have the best studios. But I want to go ahead and show you how in asking questions, you might find out those two statements are actually antithetical to themselves, because I went ahead and I just kept asking questions. At first, I did express my surprise to what was actually said. I mean, look at it here. PlayStation has better first-party games, better third-party exclusives, and then they followed that with better studios. Boom. That's when I went, I can't believe somebody just said that PlayStation has better third-party exclusives. And this was me pretty much pointing out, like, how can you say a game that doesn't belong to PlayStation belongs to PlayStation? And so I'm looking going, wait. In the same statement that you just pointed out that they have better games, you also went ahead and tried to add games that belong to other studios in that category. That is a bad categorization of what's going on, because factually, third-party games are exactly what they are. Third-party games. If, say, he said second-party games, like, say, we paid a studio that was not part of our PlayStation studios to make the game, our money, our game, something along the line, or we had an independent relationship, like, say, Helldivers 2, I'd have said, okay, that's a fair comparison. However, it's hard to put out something like that because, again, we know that those second-party games get smoked by other things in the market. I mean, some of them do well. But here is exactly where I thought things were very interesting. This person then replied and said, it's a proven fact. Go ahead and tell me what third-party exclusives have repeated for Xbox this year. I can't think of a single one. Meanwhile, PlayStation has Grand Blue Helldivers 2. That's a second-party game. That's not a third-party exclusive. That's a second-party game. Rise of Ronin, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy Rebirth, Silent Hill 2, Wukong, and Pacific Drive. So this person is out here claiming that some of these games that are on PC already, that were basically timed exclusives, money had it, something that is an anti-consumer practice, is something to brag about. And do you know how the irony actually falls? The irony falls because if I didn't say anything, this was going to be a very interesting conversation. So I pointed out the two obvious things. Number one, third-party games do not belong to anybody who money hats them. Even though they don't money hat them, we know that they don't even still belong to the platform that they're being published on. If that was the case, Steam would be sitting here with a bunch of games. Am I right? I'm not right. Or Epic. I guess Epic would be sitting on a bunch of games. They'd own Alan Wake. They'd own Metro Exodus when it first was timed exclusive. They'll own Kingdom Hearts and all that. But that's a very silly distinction. So let's throw that out of the water. Money hatting, I said, is not something to be proud of. It's a sign of deficiency that your own studios cannot deliver content. So you have to then go pay for content externally, which defeats the argument of the best studios, because you can't have the best studios and go be paying for other studios to bring games to your platform. This is why I made the video called Vulnerabilities in a lot of PlayStation fans' arguments. You make arguments, but don't consider the implication because you're so used to listening to somebody that's talking to you on some podcast. You're giving them bits, you're giving them super chats. And so you're not necessarily, paying attention. They're confirming whatever biases you have. No one's really challenged it, especially a PlayStation fan like myself. And I think that's probably what makes this whole experiment, I guess that's what I'll call it, quite interesting, because I'm coming from the PlayStation side. Today I was messing with my Xbox with this MLB The Show, and I'm like, man, I can't use this darn console. Every time I drop it, I forget how to use it. And I was laughing because it's funny that when you actually bear down these arguments and unmask them, the next thing that comes out is not something that will shock you, but we'll keep going. And then I said it's a lack of good judgment. Money hatting third-party exclusives, I don't care who does it. Epic Games, when they did it with Metro Exodus, they heard from me, but I wanted to play that game, so I bought the version that was available for me to play. That was one of my favorite games, and I knew it would be one of my favorite games. And I knew a lot about, so I bought it, but I was not happy with Epic Games because their exclusivity was, just crappy. And then at the same time, I was railing at Steam for not, reducing their profit sharing with developers to 18% or 20% like Epic Games was. So to me, I have no loyalties with any of these companies. They all have to just come down and basically bend to my wallet's will. As long as they do, I'll give them money. So I said, you'd rather, because of this lack of good judgment, it means PlayStation would rather spend money on another competitor's game over your own games within your studios as they're getting canceled, falling in sales, or being given to remakes or remasters. Let me give you guys each example that I'm actually talking about. Number one, games that are getting canceled. The Last of Us Factions. You see, when Naughty Dog said that they could not take on Factions, they said it's simply because it's going to make them a live service studio. However, they're not going to be the first studio that has done live service and is still doing single player games. There are other studios under different publishers that do that very well. They support both games simply because they just hire individuals that are capable so that they can separate that workload, or they hire aspects of sister studios to take on that workload for them while they take a supervisory role and focus on the first party games they're dealing. This is even Ubisoft 101 management that PlayStation here, so-called fans are talking about the best studios and they cannot piece this puzzle together, yet they go money hat Stellar Blade because it's much more expedient for them to be able to do this, and somehow somebody can come claim that because of this they're superior. Get out of here with that nonsense. That's not good business practice for a company that has studios. It's anti-consumer. It's designed to basically harm Xbox and has now inadvertently harmed PlayStation players because what you got instead was Concord with nothing to buffer a live service offering that you already liked in the PlayStation community. How a PlayStation fan cannot see this is quite jarring to me. And I'm just looking, going, really? Someone's arguing for this. And then they replied and said, you only say that. You see, this is where you know the argument is starting to unravel. You only say that because Xbox can't get any good third-party exclusives because their market share is pathetic. This is what this person comes back with, that Xbox cannot be anti-consumer because they don't have enough consoles. Like, yeah, they didn't money hat Tomb Raider in the Xbox One when their sales were of their consoles were even crappier. Like, they couldn't do it. Is what you're saying. Like, there's no precedent, there's no example. And they didn't get dragged for it, right? You weren't there, or you just decided that you will conveniently forget that. And then they said the fact of the matter is PS has way better exclusives, and then they still claimed it. And then they said, please tell me what great first exclusive Xbox has had all year. It's certainly a Hellblade. Astrobot destroys Hellblade 2. How do you know? Hellblade 2 is carried by Game Pass. And so is MLB The Show. We're coming back to that. Almost everything Xbox releases is mid at best outside of Forza. That's your perspective. People bought Starfield. People are enjoying it. People are fighting over it back and forth. It's a love-hate relationship. But, again, now that these PlayStation games are coming to PC, that mid is now basically being tagged on these PlayStation games. I mean, PlayStation PC players are going, what is this God of War Ragnarok game anyways? And many of them are like, it's not impressive anyways. We played Elden Ring. So mid, God of War Ragnarok is not too far from, when it looks at Elden Ring, it's like, dang it. I mean, because there's now a high taste and a high standard. It's hard. It's hard. So I replied and said, can't. A company that just spent $76 billion and acquired 2 publishers cannot money hat a game. You see, this I've warned before in a video. I said, imagine if Xbox actually decided to take its wallet and go start money hatting games against PlayStation. In fact, they knew they could do it. Do y'all remember when that email leaked in the FTC trial and one of the Microsoft folks in an email said, we're in a position to outspend Sony out of business? And PlayStation fans lost their minds. I remember they jittered. They were like, Monopoly. They just, do y'all remember? Like I was just sitting in the back just watching going, oh my gosh, they finally got a taste of, messing with the bear. And then now they're about to get mauled, and look at the way they're all, from CEO even to the, rando Twitter fan. They were just all almost peeing themselves when that email leaked. Oh, this is why Microsoft is bad. They're evil. Yeah, but yeah, this person is now here saying that Wukong, is good for Wukong. That is a game that doesn't belong to you. Stellar Blade, that's a game that was announced to be for when it was Project Eve, it was announced for Xbox. And somehow you're saying, oh, it's because it's again. This is why I basically try to remind my PlayStation fans, don't be a hypocrite. You're gonna make us look bad, okay? So I'm trying to bring your energy levels to similar, sets in terms of how we actually look at these things. And so in looking at this, I just laughed. And at the end of the day, they decided, okay, Xbox is not going to give a couple billion to make an exclusive game. They don't need to give a couple billion. They just have to spend a few million more than PlayStation, which they're in the position to do so. But there will be no point in doing so because according to him, bots don't buy games. Here we go. This is where the disparaging starts. When someone loses an argument, that's pretty much the old faithful. Xbox players don't buy games, of which we have now found out, we didn't intend to, but we found out that these PlayStation players ain't buying games anyways. This is why I got like 6 more MLB The Show videos coming, because in looking at the past sale estimates, these are not cited by any, sources, everything from that you see here on Wikipedia. However, the 2021 numbers, when they were cited, it was following a Berkshire Hathaway publication that said that 2 million copies was the fastest sold across all platforms. So these bots came in and carried your exclusive that you had held for over a decade, and you're saying they don't buy games? You actually said this? And throughout this 58% down year over year in console sales from last year, and last year was horrific for them. That is the reason. It's like a rap song these days. That is the reason you aren't seeing third-party exclusive on the like share. It's like a console's embarrassing it. Yeah, they put like a CD player inside of you. You just sing this song and just start yapping about things that we all know that even with these low console sales, when you sift it down, PlayStation even understands that Xbox has overtaken them. Hence their admission. Sony's pillars, all these console sales you're talking about and money hatting, those pillars are already dated and behind the competition. Right now, people are looking at the back end in terms of Concord, and it's still getting updates. They cannot afford for that game not to work. They're going to rebrand that bad boy. Give it a year and a half. That's the goal. They'll call it a different game. In fact, they'll cycle it till you want it. So be ready. I hope you got your wallets out. They want to farm you for that premium sales model that they wrote here on there. Sony Impact premium sales model is the central approach. So give them that $780 for your PS5 Pro and be ready to pay them for basically a game that will be subpar to the free-to-play games out here. Which PlayStation? This PlayStation that I've been a part of the ecosystem for a while. It's what they call C-finish where I'm from. It means you kind of know everything on the inside. I don't seen PlayStation finish. Now so we did talk from where I'm from. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Peace out.